Gentlemen, my friends, fellow humans, fellow compatriots from across the planet, I am Nikhil Parekh. In this video, I shall be talking about my book titled The Power of Black, Poems on Humanity, Social Cause, Poverty, Woman Empowerment, Volume 2, as well as giving you a recitation of different poems of mine from this book of mine. So friends, let me commence with an introduction to this book. This book, which has 72 differently titled poems, is actually volume 2 of the book titled The Power of Black, Poems on Humanity, Social Cause, Poverty, Woman Empowerment, 400 pages. Prologue. The book cardinally aims to end the negative perceptions The book cardinally aims to end the negative perception and energies associated with the color black and the underprivileged sections of the society. Many a different times, the utmost exhilaration spawns from a person's disability, as his or her desire to achieve the impossible is several times heightened than the normal counterpart. The magical essence of black has been epitomized to the hilt in every poetic stanza that follows, to lead to a trail of unassailable victory. Dedicated to This collection of poems is endlessly dedicated to the power of the color black. Black, which in common parlance is perceived to be negative and a disability to continue the chapters of life. But this very black, which has been described as the most powerful color for survival on earth, the most magical fragrance of every entity's soul, which continues to infatuate even beyond the dormitories of heaven and hell. Acknowledgements. I, Nikhil Parekh, am truly grateful to every bit of blackness enshrouding me, which has made me a magician to express the innermost realms of my soul into poetic verse on blank paper. Black is beautiful. Black triumphs till beyond eternity. Black is the most inscrutably tantalizing fabric of existence. God bless black. God bless black. About the poetry book. The poet has genuinely believed that even the most inexplicable of sorrow can be projected as well as alleviated via the power of magical poetry. Wondrously implementing the same in this soothing compendium of poems, Parekh brings to the fore various evils lingering in the society and tries to cure them, offering the balm of poetry. The poems contained within are starkly explicit and poignantly debate on various global social causes like female feticide, blindness, smoking, molestation, adopting the girl child, HIV/AIDS discrimination, etc. In a battle of adroit analogies, the poet emphatically portrays even the tiniest of social evil and urges mankind to rise above the same. Poetically, he tries to unite hearts all across the universe in the spirit of love, oneness and compassion, to give birth to a renaissance against evil and unjustness. This victorious concoction of poems would appeal to all those who have so selflessly fought for a social cause and to uproot evil forever from the fabric of society. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I shall be giving you a recitation of 4 different poems from this book of mine. These poems are titled as Greatest Love, A generation which never loses. We are Generation Y. Sweet success and on the spot death without a helmet. Of course, at any juncture of victorious existence, ladies and gentlemen, you can purchase this book of mine from Amazon.com. So friends, I shall now give you a recitation of my poem titled Greatest Love from this book of mine. The greatest happiness on this universe was in bringing unsurpassable happiness to the lives of all those unfortunately divested of mesmerizing fortunes, tragically lambasted by strokes of uncouth destiny from all sides. The greatest victory on this universe was in bringing unassailable victory to the lives of all those miserably slithering without their loved ones, despicably sinking deeper and deeper into the graveyard at every step for ostensibly no fault of theirs. The greatest enlightenment on this universe was in bringing spellbinding enlightenment to the lives of all those ignominiously oppressed and ostracized by every quarter of the acrimoniously tyrannical society, lugubriously swooning with every unfurling instant of time. The greatest empathy on this universe was in bringing bountiful empathy to the lives of all those diabolically marauding the silken fabric of immaculate atmosphere, unrelentingly staring ahead with savagely untamed hatred in their eyes. The greatest melody on this universe was in bringing enchanting melody to the lives of all those wailing a billion tears of monotony a minute, obnoxiously besieged in the marketplace of bizarrely horrendous manipulation and malice. The greatest euphoria on this universe was in bringing unconquerable euphoria to the lives of all those preposterously decimated by even the most evanescent trace of passing breeze. The greatest benevolence on this universe was in bringing altruistic benevolence in the lives of all those maniacally incarcerated in dungeons of insane bloodshed and criminal malevolence. The greatest optimism on this universe was in bringing unprecedented optimism to the lives of all those disparagingly crippling towards the isles of inexplicably gruesome nothingness. The greatest strength on this universe was in bringing invincible strength to the lives of all those being brutally tortured every unfurling second of their lives by the hands of the mercilessly whipping devil. The greatest wealth on this universe was in bringing endless wealth to the lives of all those innocent messengers of the Almighty Lord. Bringing endless wealth to the lives of all those innocent messengers of the Almighty Lord, derogatorily surviving in the horrifically stinking gutter lines. Derogatorily surviving in the horrifically stinking gutter lines. The greatest compassion on this universe was in bringing eternal compassion to the lives of all those miserably orphaned since the very first cry of life, abominably kicked into the corridors of salaciously stagnating poverty. The greatest sparkle on this universe was in bringing an unflinching sparkle to the lives of all those opprobriously underprivileged molecules of the Lord. Opprobriously underprivileged molecules of the Lord divine, for whom life was nothing, for whom life was nothing but a corpse of remorsefully penalizing darkness, bringing an unflinching sparkle to the lives of all those opprobriously underprivileged molecules of the Lord divine, for whom life was nothing but a corpse of remorsefully penalizing darkness. The greatest humanity on this universe was in bringing unshakable humanity to the lives of all those maliciously adulterated and bereft of the divine, satanically sucking blood from even the most astoundingly similar of their kind. The greatest penance on this universe was in bringing everlasting penance to the lives of all those indiscriminately massacring the impeccably holistic, ruthlessly snatching an impoverished child from the lap of its sacrosanct mother. The greatest solidarity on this universe was in bringing perpetual solidarity to the lives of all those heinously infiltrated in the webs of spuriously raunchy commercialism, surreptitiously waiting each moment to wring their comrade's neck. The greatest truth on this universe was in bringing irrefutable truth to the lives of all those sordidly fretting and fuming in the dungeons of dastardly depraving lies, ghastly castigating even the most majestic elements of God's creation, ghastly castigating even the most majestic elements of God's creation with the foul spit in their mouths, with the foul spit in their mouths. The greatest fantasy on this universe was in bringing tantalizing fantasy to the lives of all those lividly cursing each resplendently omnipotent aspect of their persona, abusing existence in terminologies more condemnable than what the devil could ever conceive. The greatest purpose on this universe was in bringing gloriously symbiotic purpose to the lives of all those deliberately pulverizing each instant of their miraculously omniscient life with the swords of baselessly meaningless religion. And the greatest love on this universe was in bringing immortal love to the lives of all those frigidly wanting to embrace gory death with a heart all right but sadly without the most diminutive of beats. And the greatest love on this universe was in bringing immortal love to the lives of all those frigidly wanting to embrace gory death with a heart all right but sadly without the most diminutive of beats. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now give you a recitation of my poem titled A Generation Which Never Loses. We are Generation Y, from this book of mine. So here is a recitation of my poem. Out of the clutches of societal desperation, out of the realms of spurious religious conflict, out of the gutters of frustratingly penalizing politics, out of the traditionally barbarous mindsets of the tyrannical, of the typical chauvinist, out of the tunnels of superficially illiterate darkness, out of the battlefields of fanatically baseless bombarding and war, out of any brutal offerings of flesh and life to the feet of the omnipotent God, out of the stinkingly deplorable hell of feckless dictatorship, out of the monstrously malaise mansions of tyrannical rules and regulations. Out of the sinister dungeons where definitions of caste, creed, color remained jailed. Out of any frigidly exploiting caves of tantra, yantra, mantra and astrological drama. Out of any frigidly exploiting caves of tantra, yantra, mantra and astrological drama. Out of any evil spirit trying its maniacal best to forever taint the fabric of humanity. Out of any impractical preachings which ludicrously seemed applicable only after death. Out of any anecdote of self-inflicted loneliness which only led to dementia at its very best. Out of mushmushy candy floss romances which only led to shattering of the heart into an infinite pieces. Out of mushmushy candy floss romances which only led to shattering of the heart into an infinite pieces. Out of the dusty roads of laziness and foolhardy stagnation. Out of the holocaustic perverted mindset which massacred at random in the robes of a holy priest. Out of the non-existent shadows of anarchy which had cast a pall of morbid gloom across each aspect of our priceless senses. Out of the blackness of ignorance which let us breathe only to the song of strangulating death. We are here, we are back, we are roaring and alive as the generation of the new millennium, as the generation which never loses, as the generation of now, as Generation Y. We are here, we are back, we are roaring and alive as the generation of the new millennium, as the generation which never loses, as the generation of now, as Generation Y. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now give you a recitation of my poem titled Sweet Success. So here is a recitation of my poem from this book of mine. There were no surreptitious secrets to achieve it. Bask in its gloriously scintillating laurels for centuries immemorial. There were no clandestine shortcuts to catapult to it. Shimmer in its unparalleled cynosure like no other entity on this astronomically colossal universe. There were no easy rides to gallop towards it. Unequivocally embellish it in your forehead for countless more births of yours yet to unveil. There were no magical mantras to wholesomely assimilate it, irrefutably ensure that it was solely yours from amongst infinite more on this unendingly gargantuan planet. There were no incoherent insinuations to perpetually incarcerate it, perennially ensure that it didn't budge even an inconspicuous inch from your invincible custody. There were no ominously nefarious means to blissfully absorb it, witness it become the unfathomably poignant radiance that reflected profusely from your disastrous soul. There were no dexterously ambiguous methods to lure it, unleash it from the unsurpassably limitless universe, to make it the bountiful carpet of your stinking household. There were no miraculous rockets to unflinchingly escalate to it, sight the entire planet as an infinitesimal insect, sitting on its majestically kingly countenance. There were no ravishingly melodious tunes to seduce it, Make it the profoundly aristocratic jewel of your impoverished eyes. While the rest of the globe envied you in utter disbelief. There were no swords to nonchalantly pluck it, bestow it with astronomical ease in the heart of your dwindling palms, for times immemorial, there was no tenacious breeze to swipe it entirely in one single go. Proudly solemnize your severely devastated existence with all stupendous glory that lay in the resplendent cosmos. There were no sleazily titillating colors to tantalize it, uninhibitedly make it the celestial radiance of your frigidly capricious skin, for decades unprecedented. Make it the celestial radiance of your frigidly capricious skin for decades unprecedented. There were no bombastic pools of crocodile tears to melt it. Trap its divinely prosperity forever in the swirl of your insidiously non-existent imagery. There were no ideals of spuriously pathetic business management to grasp it. Forever embed its triumphantly glittering flag on the roof of your vengefully dithering dwelling. There were no rigid textbook incantations to seek it. Gyrate in the spell of its heavenly ebullience, irrespective of ghastly night or spellbindingly sweltering day. There were no ingeniously scientific formulas to wonderfully evolve it, preserve it without the slightest of effort, for incomprehensibly unstoppable decades on the trot. There were no flash in the pan one-night stands. To reach it. Let its marvelously enamoring intensity descend upon every cranny of your lecherously diminutive visage. There were no bizarrely commercial manipulations to trade it. Make it the most unassailably treasured aspect of your despicable life, in exchange of fathomless treasuries of your rotting wealth. And if there was any way to immortally reach it, divinely experience it in every philanthropic smile of your survival, then it was irrefutably and only timeless perseverance. A son of blazing hard work that undisputedly leads you to the heaven of unconquerably sweet success. And if there was any way to immortally reach it, divinely experience it in every philanthropic smile of your survival, then it was irrefutably and only timeless perseverance. A son of blazing hard work that undisputedly leads you to the heaven of unconquerably sweet success. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now give you a recitation of my poem titled On the Spot Death Without a Helmet. So here is a recitation of this poem of mine. These were the same hands that compassionately traced his royally newborn smile till the absolute ends, to where it uninhibitedly stretched on his majestically enamoring face. These were the same hands that hoisted him high and handsome into free spaces of exhilarated air, joyously reminiscing their very own childhood as they witnessed the most beautiful gift of creation blossoming to its magnificent fullness. These were the same hands that fervently sorted his favorite dolls and toys from an inexhaustible marketplace of myriad accessories, strings, fresh gizmos lethargically strewn around. These were the same hands that perspired into an infinite droplets of ardent sweat each sweltering day and night under the sky, persevering through boundless lanes of hardships in order to give him the best of life. Persevering through boundless lanes of hardships in order to give him the best of life. These were the same hands that stood like an unflinching fortress in the way of each pernicious impediment and storm that dared come his innocuously blessed way. These were the same hands that stringently cleansed even the most unthinkably fetid and decayed of his bowel discharge. An umpteenth time a day, so that he forever rollicked and dreamt in his cradle of eternal happiness. These were the same hands that mischievously tickled him to countless guffaws of unabashed laughter, stood infallibly like the rock of Gibraltar, behind even the weirdest of his childish explorations. These were the same hands that unwaveringly collected each droplet of his saliva and vomit. Unceasingly cajoled and patted his pristine forehead until he transited into profound celestial sleep. These were the same hands that held his inconspicuously measly fingers, following him untiringly for innumerable days and agonizing nights, until he learnt to unconquerably walk. These were the same hands that taught him to grip a pen, legitimately scribble and write, merrily going through the endless learning motions countless a time, and bearing the most vicious of his rebellious kicks with a smile. These were the same hands that wiped each tear of inexplicable discomfort that dribbled from his eyes, replacing them and each of his moistened eyelashes with the most victorious pearls of paradise. These were the same hands that snatched him every time from the jaws of gory death, as he inadvertently tended to fall into the gorge of extinction, the corpse of uncertainty, time after time. These were the same hands that adroitly guided him through each mangled pathway of inscrutable life, slowly evolving a sensible youngster out of his blabbering childhood rhetoric. These were the same hands that perpetually entwined with his in applause and congratulations every time he emerged humanitarianly triumphant amongst a pack of asphyxiatingly worldly wild wolves. These were the same hands that matched his exhilarated knuckles punch for punch as he galloped in the peak of spellbinding youth, trying to wondrously decipher his dreams amidst bits of fantastic blue sky. These were the same hands that put his palms in the palms of his dream girl, forever and ever, blessed them both in the threads of invincibly sacrosanct marriage. These were the same hands that once again played and passionately nourished his offsprings like they had nurtured him several years ago. Now that he had turned proud father himself. And unfortunately, these were the very same fatherly hands that now burnt him on his inconsolable pyre, and then banged themselves into a mist of throttled nothingness as he met with an accident, cracked his skull, which was carelessly without a helmet, and on the spot died. And unfortunately, these were those very same fatherly hands that now burnt him on his inconsolable pyre, and then banged themselves into a mist of throttled nothingness as he met with an accident, cracked his skull, which was carelessly without a helmet, and on the spot died. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, fellow compatriots, fellow humans from across the planet, it truly was a privilege for me to have given a recitation of my poetry to your exuberant jurisdiction. From the innermost dormitory of my soul, I wanted to express my gratitude to you for having so gloriously patronized my poetry. Of course, at any juncture of victorious existence, you can purchase this book of mine from Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to me.